Okay. So today we're going to talk about the fifth key to greatness, which is perseverance. Now, perseverance is the fifth key, and we've already talked about the first four, right? So to kind of recap and get everybody on the same page, maybe you haven't read the book or you haven't been following along. So the six keys is a complete framework for life to solve human discontent. And, I tried to tear away, pare away, get down to the bedrock, and I hit the bedrock with these six steps, right? What I mean by that is everything else in terms of self-development, answers to deal with anxiety, depression, goal setting, time management, setting your purpose, all these things. I really just tore apart all these different areas and got down to what I think is the core framework to follow that leads to a life of fulfillment, contentment, and ultimately transcendence, right? So we started with perspective and gratitude. We have to create a worldview that is through the lens of gratitude at all times. And we all are guilty of not taking this seriously enough, of taking things for granted way too much. And if you just take a little bit of time and, in the book, we talk about a few strategies to bring gratitude to top of mind, it gives you an unlimited fuel source to drive forward toward your goals. The second one is internal locus of control. That's the second key. And that we're harnessing our power, right? We're harnessing that fuel, and that way we can direct it toward whatever the mission is. And the third is your North Star, which is establishing your long-term life purpose. Why are you here? Right? Meaning is not a natural thing, right? There's no meaning to a rock or a tree, or there's no inherent meaning to the earth going around the sun. Those are just natural laws. They happen. Humans need meaning in their lives, and therefore it's a uniquely human construct. We have to give purpose and meaning to our lives and to things to feel fulfilled. And so we have to establish a North Star that is based on impacting others. It can't be just about ourselves, okay, or it won't provide fulfillment, which we talk about in the book. And then we get to self-discipline. So we talked about last time. That's the nuts and bolts, right? The tactics, the strategies to actually execute what's going to happen. Now, as we start executing, now we get to this fifth key, right? We get to perseverance. Okay, the dictionary defines perseverance as persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. But I want to be way more specific here. Let's talk about four critical aspects to perseverance. One, the ability to minimize the impact of distractions in the completion of an important task. There are a lot of distractions in the world today, right? And it's very easy to get distracted, drawn off course. And part of perseverance is staying laser focused on what matters to you. In the quadrant 2 tasks, if you remember from self-discipline. 2, the ability to overcome unforeseen challenges to accomplish an important task. 3, the ability to endure hardship while mitigating its impact on performance and physical and mental state. Right? We don't want to be the person that if the weather's not right and we're a little cold or we're a little tired or our presentation slides didn't work, right? Like mine didn't today, or whatever, right? We get one bad phone call and it throws off our ability to execute. We cannot be that fragile. We have to be, it doesn't matter how tired, how cold, how sick, if my technology works, if I'm completely ready, if the conditions are right. If one person shows up to my event or 500 do, doesn't matter. I'm not letting those external factors affect my performance. That is also part of perseverance. And then fourth and finally, the ability to stay committed to a task completion through comfort, overcoming apathy. That's the fourth one people don't think about and they don't talk about much when it comes to perseverance. Everybody thinks about perseverance as, oh, well, I had this horrible trauma happen, or I came across this huge problem set I was struggled with, and I overcome those dark times in my life. And that is perseverance. But perseverance is also saying, I have this goal I'm going to make a company in 10 years. It's going to make $10 million. And then you make $4 million and life gets a lot more comfortable. And you get some kids and their soccer practices and you get distractions and the house is nice and you have leather seats and there's a lot of good stuff on Netflix and you eat pretty good. And all of a sudden it's like, my North Star, I'll get to it. Apathy kills so many dreams, and it also is why so many people accept good instead of going for great. Because good is comfortable, right? It's easy to be the young, hungry upstart coming up and get me against the world. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to change. I'm going to accomplish. I'm going to do so much with my life. And then you get 30s, 40s, 50s. Life's pretty comfortable, going through the motions. You get in your routine. And then you look back at the last 30 years. You're like, man, I had such big dreams and goals. I was going to change the world. I was going to impact people. And instead now, all I can think about is my 401k and what I'm going to eat for dinner. It's not good enough. Not for those of us, like everyone on this call, that has been gifted with so much and have been put on a pedestal by the effort and suffering of our ancestors. We cannot accept good. We have to go for great. This is why the fifth key is so important, because when you commit to a warrior's mindset, you accept the moral obligation of greatness. And I believe that with the potential for greatness comes an inherent moral obligation to achieve greatness. This is going to be a lifelong marathon of rewarding struggle. But you must stay committed to your North Star. You must stay committed to your higher calling and accept nothing less. Right? In the book, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right? And we don't have to go through the whole thing, but at the base of it, right, you've got your physiological needs, right? Your safety, food, security, right? And if you're in that position where you don't know where the next meal is coming from, that is your North Star, right? We have to meet those basic needs. But I doubt very many of you are worried about that. We're past that, right? There's a lot of people who live in war-torn countries or in even cities and inner cities of the United States that safety is not a guarantee. And so to expect them to perform and think in long-term aspects and think like someone who grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood is not, it's not the correct way to think. We're not thinking in terms of statistical determinism like we talked about in chapter 1. Right? Not everyone is playing with the same hand, but our job is to build on whatever we were given to achieve and move through those basic levels, move through a sense of quality relationships, of self, of belonging, to achieve self-actualization, self-awareness. Right? This is a lifelong journey to master ourselves. This is why I wrote the whole book in the first place, because I started training senior executives and realizing I'm trying to talk to them about mastery and leadership of others, and they haven't even learned how to master leadership themselves. Self-leadership. The battle is in here in your mind, and it always will be. But once we start to achieve some semblance of self-actualization, self-mastery, really feel, I know who I am as a person, I know the way I view myself is the way other people view myself. That means I have good emotional intelligence. I'm working with other people. Then we move to, which our goal is transcendence, is a oneness with the world, an acceptance and a form of enlightenment, and an acceptance of who we are and the role we play, and that we know that we are giving back to the world all that we have. And that struggle, that journey, that adventure is life. It is the life of the humble warrior. That is having a warrior's mindset. So we cannot lose our fire as we move up through those things. Right? You all probably have heard there's an old adage saying, I think it was, originally quoted from some native peoples in the United States, before the United States. And, the son of the chief says, I want success so bad. He said, how bad do you want it? He goes, I want it so bad. I want more than anything. And he has him walk out in the ocean. And he doesn't know what's going on. He walks halfway out and he's like, okay, Do I know it yet? He's like, nope, you don't know what it takes to be successful yet. Keep walking, keep walking. And then eventually the water gets so high that he just sees his eyes and he can't breathe. And he stays there. He says, wait. And he pops up, takes that big deep breath. He goes, when you want success as bad as you wanted that breath, you will never be stopped. You have to keep that fire alive and persevere. So resiliency is not something you're born with. It's something that has to be trained. It's something you have to put intentional work into it. People aren't born tough. You must build tough. And for some, your environment, your circumstances, your upbringing provides that, right? Maybe because you did have to go through struggle, or you saw struggle, or you were raised correctly to see the struggle of others and appreciate that. And you were pushed and you set goals and you achieved them and you overcame struggles. Maybe you weren't, though. That's okay. Sometimes that's done in a healthy way. Sometimes it's not. But the fact is, you can always improve your resiliency, but only through struggle. Right? In the book, we talk about that there was a meta study done. So it was an analysis of multiple studies on success. And they focused on students in Ivy League, right, top tier schools, and entrepreneurs. And they tried to find commonalities, common traits that would explain what makes some people successful and some people are not successful. And they looked at socioeconomic status, they looked at race, they looked at gender, they looked at finances, they looked at regions, they looked at a lot of things. And you know what they came up with that correlated the success between these two groups of people nearly 100% of the time? It was these two traits. One, they wanted to succeed so bad that they were willing to fail. They were willing to be a student. They were willing to start over. They were willing to get outside their comfort zone. They were willing to suffer for what they wanted. But there's a second component. The second component is they hated failing so much that they immediately learned from it and they didn't repeat mistakes. No one expects you to be perfect. But they do expect you to learn from your mistakes and be improving as a human being over time. And this is how we learn our whole life, right? We have to do that, right? I mean, ideally we learn from other people's mistakes, but the child has to go touch and see what hot is. They have to touch the hot stove to know, well, that sucks. I'm not going to touch that again. Right? As you learn to talk, you start just making sounds, well, right? And then all of a sudden, you say the sounds in a certain way, and you get what you want. You realize, oh, that means food. That means water. That means please. That means thank you. That means I want. But nobody comes out of the womb and starts rattling off Shakespeare, right? We only learn through that. But as we get older, society starts telling us, school starts telling us that failure is bad. But in the real world, failure is really the only way to grow. It is the best teacher. But we have to be willing to put ourselves out there, and we have to be willing to fail and have the self-confidence to know that we are going to fail, and our failures are not who we are. It's who we're becoming. And then we have to learn from those mistakes and continue to improve. So another diagram was the Yerkes-Dodson curve in the book, if you remember this, right? So as we overcome these failures, as we continue to push our boundaries, what's actually happening is we're moving through a process of stress inoculation. So there's this curve that's been around for over 100 years that shows us, and has been proven over and over again, right, that too little stress, right, or stimulus, whatever you want to call it, if we don't have enough of that, enough pressure on us, we underperform. Right? Think of the slacker with no goals who sits around, just watches TV, plays video games all day, no real goals in life. Are they performing well to their potential? No. And if mom's just letting them live in the basement all the time, playing video games, then they're never going to perform to their potential because there's no stress on them. And then as we increase stress levels, our performance starts to increase until we hit an optimal level of stress. And then if we continue to get overly stressed or overstimulated, right, then our performance drops. Now, this curve is true, but it is different for every individual. So your Yerkes-Dodson curve is not my Yerkes-Dodson curve. And I will tell you through my own experience going through some very intense and stressful training from the time even when wrestling in high school, cutting weight and wrestling, going out by yourself, there's no teammate, right? There's nobody to toss you the ball or blame it on. It's you versus another person. Cutting weight to do that is when I started, I think, really building some of that natural toughness, or building up that toughness and mental resiliency, but that carried over to the military. And I'll tell you that, I talk about special forces selection in the book for a reason. Because those are all also tough, driven, physically fit, some of the best of the best. And I saw them break. I saw combat vets break mentally, while others continued forward. You have to put in the work to prepare for those moments of adversity in your life, right? This happens with training all the time. I tell my jiu-jitsu students, when you go to compete, you're not going to overperform what you've known and done in the gym. Almost every single time, you're going to drop to your lowest level of training. So you're really rolling the dice if you don't build up and put yourself in situations to build up mental resiliency throughout your life and start pushing your Yerkes-Dodson curve to the right. And think when that big life moment happens, whether that's business, personal, an emergency, you're just going to step up and perform. Right? We use this as another example. You see, it's easy to see in physical examples more than mental. So I'm giving you some more like real world physical examples. You see this in, let's say, shooting all the time. People go to the range, they shoot their gun in the air condition with their nice glasses on and their Air Pro, and they shoot nice and slow. And they're like, oh, I'm ready for an intruder. Really? You think you're ready to fire a gun at a human being that's running at you and trying to shoot at you at the same time? Because you calmly shot bullets in an air-conditioned range? I will tell you, because I've done both things, it is not the same. So we have to train like we fight. So that means if you're a salesperson, right, or you have a sales team, you need to be role-playing objections, getting told no over and over again. Whatever your goal is, whether that's building a business, you need to be pitching and getting told no. You need to be facing rejection. You need to be, if you're training a sports team, you need to put them tired, fatigued, end of the practice. They're dragging themselves. Boom. All right, overtime. Let's go. Because you will not build resiliency inside your comfort zone. You have to go try new things. It creates new neural pathways in your brain, and dealing with that stress over and over again makes it easy. The last example I'll give you here on stress inoculation, and one of the best examples I give you is jumping out of airplanes. I don't know if any of you guys have skydived or anything stuff. I jumped 37 jumps in the military. And here's what I'll tell you is when you hadn't jumped out of an airplane in a long time and you went to go do it, it was terrifying. Literally shaking, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is the dumbest thing in the world. Why am I jumping out of this plane? This is so stupid. But when you're doing an ongoing training exercise and this is the 6th time you've jumped out of a plane in 3 days, you don't even care anymore. You're like, I don't even care. I'm just another step. You don't have the same physiological stress response. And when our physiological stress response and our cortisol goes up, our performance decreases. But if we've already been there and done that against someone who hasn't, we're going to overcome them every time because our performance is at the peak of our Yerkes-Dodson curve. And this is also important as we move forward in our life, as you move forward and you reach higher levels of greatness and success, you're expected to perform under higher and higher levels of stress, of strain, of complexity. There's a reason a CEO, we don't get into the wage disparities, right? But there's a lot of things that go on. But there's a reason CEOs get paid so much. because their decision is being looked at by the world, by a board, by the market, by analysts, if they're a publicly traded company, across the board. And they're going to be torn apart. And one bad decision means that could lose the jobs for 10,000 people. The effects are massive. Right? Think about the president of the United States, the pressure on every decision. Do you send troops? What do you do? Russia, just on the news today, Russia is mounting troops on the Ukraine. What do you do? That's a type of pressure the average person can never understand, right? Because we've never been put into that type of pressure situation. But whatever that is in your life, you can push yourselves higher and higher to that point, like where I want my company to be in 10 years, I'm not capable of running that company right now, but I'm going to be. And that's how you need to look at it. Where do you want to go? What is your North Star? What is your highest level of success? And if it's whatever that is, you need to start preparing yourself for the decisions you're going to have to make in 10 years, in 5 years. And you do that by doing hard, new things regularly. Right? So there's really sort of 4 factors that come into play when it comes to resiliency when you have overwhelming stress response, okay? So the first is genetic predisposition. Not much you can do here. It's about 20% of the factor is your genetics and things like that. The second is psychological coping strategies. This is 100% our control. This is doing realistic training. This is visualizing, right? Visualize that sales call you're getting ready to have. Visualize that tough conversation with your boss or your spouse or your partner that you're in a relationship with, right? Visualize it, go through it, think through it, and we'll recruit pathways, and you'll create neurochemical responses that are similar to it actually happening, and you're building up, you're getting reps at that tough thing. Visualization works. There's a thing called tactical breathing. Tactical breathing, it goes by a few other names, but it's 4-4-4-4. So we're going to breathe in through our nose for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and then breathe out through our mouth for 4 seconds. Then wait 4 seconds before we breathe in again. Do 4 sets of 4 of that. It'll bring your heart rate down. It'll center you, and then you can move forward. Other things we can do if we need, we can go through counseling, right? If you went through trauma, especially as a child, right? Part of having an awareness mindset is doing whatever it takes to succeed. And a lot of times that means asking for help. And then finally, cognitive control techniques. So what we have to be able to do is we have to be able to separate ourselves from our emotions. You are not your emotions. You are 100% of your reactions. So what we want to do is we want to separate ourselves from that emotional initial response. And then we also want to see, what can I control in this situation? What can't I control? And if you can't control it, we need to get rid of it. That'll automatically lessen the stress on you, and you can focus 100% of effort on things you can control. So those are 2, genetic predisposition and psychological coping strategies. A third is environmental factors. We can control some of this. We can't control everything. You can't eliminate, right, unnecessary stress completely. But things we can do are say no when you want to. Every time you avoid necessary confrontation because you fear conflict with someone else, you start a war inside yourself. You have to have that release. You have to have that confrontation. You have to find a way to get out that tension. Find ways to decrease unnecessary and unproductive stress. Declutter your work environment, right? Take time to plan out your schedule. It'll eliminate so much stress from your day when you actually take a half hour. I take at least 15 minutes, sometimes a half hour a day, just planning my day. Making sure every moment I do, and then I can go, boom, next. But if every minute you're having to make a decision about what I should do the next minute, that's a lot of unnecessary stress. That's too many decisions. That's decision fatigue. And then declutter your work environment. Take the time to clean up your space at the end of the day. Take time to clean up your room when you get up in the morning. Make your bed. Put clutter away in your house. And there's a ton of other tactics in the book we can do that, right? And then the fourth one, the final one, is epigenetic factors. And this is what we're talking when we talk about stress inoculation training. your genes play a role, but there's epigenetic factors that turn off and on certain control measures in your genes that actually have a much greater impact in your health and your mindset and everything, in your being. So you need to do new and challenging and hard things often. The reality is you're either hardening your mind or you're getting weaker every day. There is no steady state. Diet, exercise, sleep, hydration, focus. Your mind is like your muscles. Your muscles are either in a catabolic or an anabolic state. But they're either getting stronger or they're being broken down. That's it. Right? If you someone who lays in a hospital bed and doesn't use their muscles for 10 days is going to lose pounds and pounds of muscle, and they're going to grow fat. And it's going to take them months, if not a year, to try to get that back from 10 days of laying and not moving. Your mind is the same way. You're either getting smarter or dumber every day you live. So put in the work. So let's conclude this concept of perseverance. I've seen this in practice, Special Forces selection, Rangers School, Special Forces training. I see it in entrepreneurs and business leaders all the time. As you improve your performance, you must be prepared for increasing levels of responsibility, stress, and challenges. And you can't wait until they arrive and then expect to magically rise to the occasion. You don't rise to the occasion under stress, you fall to your highest level of previous experience. So you must commit to the habit of doing hard things, uncomfortable things, new things that contribute to the skill sets and the situations you need to accomplish your North Star. You are capable of greatness and of constant improvement. And all that you have to do is intentionally build stress tolerance by stepping outside your comfort zone on a regular basis. You should be getting smarter, tougher, and more competent every single day. I hope you enjoyed that talk on perseverance. If you're not already on my email list, or if you want, I'm going to be sending out, not that often, probably twice a week or once a month, some additional content and some deals. If you're interested in more details in working with me, I have a small group for individuals called the Stronger Leaders Society, and we hold each other accountable. We do bi-weekly exclusive training. And just go ahead and send in the chat to me directly or in Facebook messages that you're interested in. I'll start talking to you about that. We can get you on board with the Stronger Leaders Society. Because when you go to achieve greatness, going alone is hard. Okay? When you switch from, my goal is to have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and 2.5 kids and 2 cars and make 80 grand a year, to I'm going to change the world and achieve my actual potential, better get ready to persevere. But I'll tell you, the reward is worth the struggle every single time. So thank you so much for this. We'll save this and I will post it back up with complete notes and some other things I didn't even have a chance to get to on my YouTube channel, on Stronger Leaders, Stronger Profits on my YouTube channel. So thank you so much, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.